Hey everyone, I'm Nick, and in this video I want to show you guys the latest project I've been working on. In front of me here is a mid-motor Traxxas Bandit conversion I've been working on, and it's the latest in a couple iterations of the project I've been going through over the years, and it's my best yet, so I wanted to share it with you guys. In this video, I'll go over the features that I put into it, why I wanted to do a mid-motor Traxxas build, why I did this one the way I did it, and then I'll briefly go over how it drives and show you guys some footage of me racing it on the track. So now the moment you've probably all been waiting for. What does it look like without the body on? Get that out of the way. Here it is. Now, as you can see, it is not your typical Traxxas Bandit, and it's not your typical mid-motor conversion for a Traxxas car. Everything you see in front of you here that's custom is something I designed and made by myself. All these 3D printed parts I designed in Fusion 360 and printed on my 3D printer, and all of these custom carbon farts, all these custom carbon fiber parts from the shock towers, the front and rear shock towers, the motor plate, and the main chassis here. Again, I designed and made those all myself. I've got a CNC router behind me in my basement here, and that's what I use to cut out all the carbon fiber parts. Yeah, so quickly I'll show you some of the features here that I think are pretty cool, that I want to show off, and I'll start at the rear and kind of work my way forward. So on the very back here is this rear camber link mount, and what I like about this design is that it's much more adjustable than the stock Traxxas design. I've got extra mounting points here to change the length of the link, and then I've got all of these different little adjustable blocks that I can quickly swap in here underneath the camber link mount, so I can easily raise and lower the inner link mounting point for different roll center adjustments. And then finally also, the camber link here, it has a built-in mount for a sway bar. So if I ever get around to designing sway bars to put on this thing, it's all ready to take sway bars. I've got that all designed. The next feature, on this car, I opted to use the Traxxas Nitro Wrestler rear arm mounts. They're nice because they're an off-the-shelf Traxxas part, so I don't have to worry about designing or making them myself. And they come in different options for different amounts of toe-in. And they come with inserts for adjusting the anti-squat of the car. So it's a nice off-the-shelf solution, and it's more adjustable than anything else I could have done. Moving forward here, the next little minor detail, the transmission case here has a little hole built into it. And this hole is how you can adjust the Traxxas ball differential if you're running a ball diff. And I do have a ball diff in here, so I do need that hole in order to adjust how tight or loose the ball diff is. The next thing moving forward here, you can see I've got a built-in fan mount. I don't know if I'll be able to show that. It's kind of underneath the transmission case here. But that's a nice, easy way to mount a cooling fan for your motor, which is pretty mandatory nowadays, especially if you're running stock classes. We push these motors so hard that if you didn't have a motor fan to keep it cool, you either wouldn't be fast enough to keep up, or you would melt your motor trying to keep up. So that's absolutely critical. And the last thing here that I really like about this build are these quick release battery tabs I've got here. They hold the battery down nice and well, and then they just, they swivel out of the way, and they make it super easy to get the battery in and out of the car without having to futz with like screws or O-rings or anything else. So real nice feature. Yeah, so that's about it for the features. So the reason I wanted to do a Traxxas mid-motor build to begin with is I kind of just wanted a car that I controlled entirely in terms of design and parts support. With all of the Traxxas parts that are on this car, like the arms, the drive shafts, the top deck here, the servo mount, or the servo, the steering posts, all that stuff, all the Traxxas parts on this car, they've been in production by Traxxas in some form or another for at least, nearly 30 years at this point. And, they're not going anywhere. So I can be pretty confident that, even 5 years from now or 10 years from now, if I want to run this car, the parts will be available for me to run this car. And then for all the custom parts that I made, again, like at any moment, I could just make those again myself if I need to. So it's real nice to have a car where I'm in complete control over whether or not I can run it and whether I've got the parts to run it. And over, I've got control over the design of it. So if there's something about the car that I want to change, I can quickly design a new part to throw in and test it and see if I like it and if it does what I need it to do. So, that's really nice. The other thing is it's just fun. It's a fun thing to try to do, to design your own car or to design your own conversion like this. And then even once you get the car designed and made, now you've got a custom one-off car that nobody else has, and you have to figure out how to tune it and how to adjust it to make it run fast on the track. And so that's, another layer of challenge to it that just makes it fun. And then finally, it's kind of just fun to run like the quote-unquote wrong kind of car. Like there's a bit of a subversive aspect to showing up and running a Traxxas Bandit buggy in the intensely competitive and high-dollar racing scene of two-wheel drive buggy. Showing up with this is just kind of fun. So, yeah, it's just kind of fun to do that. All right, so with all that out of the way, I'm sure a lot of you are probably wondering why I went this direction with the build and I didn't do the common conversion that you see that people do online where they just take the stock transmission and spin it around. And without getting too much in the weeds on that, the long and the short of it is when you do that, it kind of makes the car not compatible with off-the-shelf parts and electronics. It changes the direction that the motor spins, which, you can deal with and you can get around, but, it's not as easy. With this car, you can just take an off-the-shelf motor and speed control and slap it in and not have to worry about that at all. And then also with this car, I can take an off-the-shelf Bandit body and I don't have to worry about whether or not I have to modify the Bandit or the body to make it fit the car. And same with the Rustler. With the Rustler, if you move the rear shock tower like you do when you swap the transmission around, you have to come up with your own solution to mount the body. And so with this car, there's none of that you have to worry about. You can just use off-the-shelf Traxxas parts in this car without having to modify them. And you can use off-the-shelf bodies and you can use off-the-shelf electronics. And to me, that's like the real advantage, is that it's such a cleaner build that requires less hand modification to get it running. So it's just easier to get going. What else did I want to talk about? Oh yeah, so how does it drive, right? I'm sure you're all intensely curious about how this thing drives. Well, I'll show you guys a short clip of me racing at the track, and you can judge for yourself what you think.
Watch on the back, make it looser. Minute 30 in, 4:30 remaining.
So yeah, I think it drove pretty well last night. I had no major problems controlling the car. With these TLR shocks on here, it jumped and landed really nice. With the Traxxas ball diff that I have in here, it had no problems putting down the power from this boosted mod motor. Yeah, it was just a joy to drive this thing, and it felt, pretty fast, and it was really consistent too. To give you an idea of how consistent it was, the average of my 10 fastest laps was only about 0.4 of a second slower than my fast lap for the race. So, if you're not big into racing, just know that that's really consistent. That means that, lap after lap after lap, I was able to drive this thing, as fast as I could consistently. As for durability, I don't think that the race that I went to last night is enough of a trial on this car to determine whether or not it'll, these 3D printed parts will stand up to, any long-term use or hard hits. I didn't crash it a whole lot last night, and I didn't have, when I did crash, they weren't hard hits or anything like that, and I didn't have what I would consider to be like the worst case crash, which would be if I landed upside down and the shock tower took a hit like this. I'd be concerned about the transmission case right here breaking, because you see if I hit, right here, that's a lot of leverage on this spot right here, and that's a printed part, so I'd really be worried about durability there. But that didn't happen, so it survived a full race night, and I think that in itself is a success right there, so I was pretty happy with that. The last question that I'm sure a lot of you are going to have, or some of you are going to have, and I know because every time I post this project online I get the same question, is whether or not I'm going to sell anything or release any of my design files. It's something that I'm considering carefully, but I don't have an answer to that right now. So I know that's probably not the answer you want to hear if you really want to build one of these for yourself, but that's just where I'm at with it right now. And if I ever do decide anything, or when I do decide something, I'll probably make an announcement or a video. But until then, I'm keeping the files just on my computer. And so, yeah, that's it. What do you think? Am I crazy here? Would you want to build one of these for yourself? Would you drive one of these? Would you get rid of your B7 to drive one of these? Let me know in the comments below. So, yeah, thanks for watching, and goodbye.